Hi everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of Genre Equality. I'm Hidzir.
I'm Hadi.
I'm Isa.
And can I just say, right, since the inception of this podcast, I've never been more excited to record an episode.
Oh.
Superhero movies and comic book shows are great,
Yeah.
but we have like some real art to dig into this month.
That's true.
It's just phenomenal for genre entertainment.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm very cautious with praise usually and how I use words, but I'm going to be using the term masterpiece a lot, like
I think at least 4 times.
freewheelingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because truly there are no other words to describe some of the bevy of outstanding art we are here to review this month. And as luck would have it, a lot of them share themes actually. 2 of them are gorgeous titles about climate change,
Yep.
gorgeously crafted, which are Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, and Weathering with You. 2 of the best and most stunning titles this month are actually profound stories about relationships with absent fathers through a stunning cosmic backdrop, which are Undone and Ad Astra. Plus, we review some Scandinavian folk horror from the director of Hereditary, heartfelt animated musical, not Current Tuesday. We're talking about Steven and Universe here. The Return of Pennywise. I'm going to be talking about a scary French horror series in quick hits. Victorian steampunk fantasy, and of course, Young Justice, Outsiders, and lots more lah. But let's kick off with the first title that popped up chronologically on Netflix. It is The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. Before we get into the review, which of you have seen the original Dark Crystal movie from 1982?
I just watched it after you recommended it.
So you watched it after season 1 lah?
Yeah,
so you watched it chronologically lah?
Actually, yeah lah.
Yeah. So the Dark Crystal is a sequel to you, not a prequel.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Isa?
I did watch it when I was like really, really young. But I definitely I watched it again after finishing the series.
Oh, okay, cool. So The Dark Crystal of Age of Resistance, as I mentioned, is a prequel to the Jim Henson classic from 1982 called The Dark Crystal. Although, most of you probably know his work from Sesame Street and The Muppet Show.
Yes.
The late, great Jim Henson's most personal project, according to himself, was The Dark Crystal, which was an audacious fantasy film populated by lots of puppets and built on a scale like never before, even by his own standards. Now, 37 years later, that's a long time. Thanks to his daughter, Lisa Henson, and Netflix comes this meticulously crafted and a beautifully faithful prequel to Henson's most cherished world. Age of Resistance is a sweeping production. It's grand and gorgeous, and it's an epic that doesn't just stay faithful to the original spectacle look. It also stays faithful to its rich lore. It enhances Henson and Frank Oz's vision with heart and wonder. But sadly, this awe-inspiring series will have to tackle 2 daunting obstacles before audiences can even choose to experience it. Firstly, there are many unfamiliar with the cult classic. May have been forgotten through time. It wasn't really a box office success or anything. That's easily overcome because the show is engaging and evocative enough to wow first-timers, and doesn't. It's not necessary to watch the Dark Crystal before you watch this. The second problem is a little harder to solve. There are a large number of modern viewers who may be put off by puppets. Do you have puppet bias out there, fans?
Actually, even I am slightly puppet biased lah.
You're biased against puppets?
Slightly lah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I still managed to go through the entire series. But they're just at the back of my mind. Oh my god, there's this like creepiness that I cannot explain. Yeah, I still enjoyed everything lah. But there's the bit of that. It's so creepy.
Yeah, how about you, Isa?
Yeah.
I don't think for me it was puppet bias as much as the fact that I'm used to a particular polish, right, that comes there. And I felt like the puppetry, especially in the beginning, took me a while to adjust to the fact. Like in my head, I knew that, okay, it's going to be puppets. It's going to not be the same kind of look, not the same kind of feel.
Yeah.
The synchronization between the voice and the acting itself isn't going to be like perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So those were things that I needed to get over, and it took me about 2 episodes to kind of get there. I mean, I do remember kind of fondly the original movie. That and the fact that the skeksis were fucking terrifying.
Grotesque.
Like that stands out in my memory a fair deal. But I think after 2 episodes, I was okay with that.
Okay.
And I think like watching just the amount of work that they had to do in the behind the scenes thing that aired after, wow. That really like cemented it for me.
I think while the use of old school puppetry techniques, although it is enhanced by cutting edge CGI as it is today, it was a major drawing point for established fans, but the aesthetic might be a deal breaker for some neophytes who may not go on past the second episode like I said it or you did to actually get over it. And that is a shame because Age of Resistance is one of the greatest I think fantasy narratives to ever be put on the television screens or your laptops or whatever that is streaming, right? And one of 2019's most jaw-dropping TV events. If your puppet bias holds you back, well, I guess it's your loss.
I mean, I think we should recommend people to just push through. Try.
Definitely. Don't let your puppet bias hold you back. With that said, let's discuss why we thought this was such a triumph. Notably, this series takes place before the catastrophic events of the movie. Not quite explained. I think how many years... but the two protagonists of Dark Crystal have not been born yet.
It's not.
So I think it might be at least a decade or 15 or 17 years.
Like Star Wars prequels.
I don't know like how puppets age. I'm not sure how the Gelfling age or how long the lifespan is. But
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. So when we followed up in the movie, right, Fra was in a state of apocalyptic ruin, ruled over by the villainous vulture-esque race of creatures called the Skeksis, who have harnessed the magical crystal of truth to achieve immortality and drain the planet of life. Over 10 episodes, Age of Resistance tells the story of how a paradise became poisoned, building out Dark Crystal's mythology to explore the Skeksis' descent and the noble rebellion led by an elven-isk race called the Gelfling. The world building here is exemplary. While the peaceful and earnest Gelflings were almost extinct in the film, except for two, the series is set in a time when they were abundant.
There are 7 clans and all.
I know, and it takes great care to immerse us into their matriarchal societies, delving deep into a myriad of belief systems, cultures, and even prejudices. We discover all this through the tales of 3 specific Gelflings: the warrior Rian, voiced by Taron Egerton, the gentle Deet, voiced by Nephili Emmanuel.
Damn good story arc.
Yes. You remember her as the what's the name from Game of Thrones? I forgot.
Who?
Daenerys' translator.
Missandei.
Missandei, that's right. Yeah, she was Missandei. And a scholarly rebel named Bria, played by Anya Taylor-Joy.
Also, brilliant story arc.
Each begin in different places, but as you can probably figure out, their paths will be interwoven to draw them in together to stop the Skeksis. So what do you guys think about the show overall? And tell me what you dislike about it.
Honestly, it was such a great world because it's not your usual like elves, dwarves, orcs, that kind of thing. Human.
They have kind of elves.
It's very different still though. It's more fairy-like rather than I feel elf-like. I love the whole idea, the distinctness of all 7 Gelfling clans and all that, which you don't get in the movie anymore and the Skeksis are so fucking terrifying still.
They are.
Right.
They genuinely are.
But overall, I honestly felt that as long as the story arcs were really, really well done. Like every single character from Deet, Rian, and Bria. All 3 of them, their journey was just so awesome to follow. And I mean, you still had your fantasy tropes, that weapon at the end you need to get, but in the end it's not the weapon, it's you, that kind of thing. That kind of fantasy tropes are still there, but I found that there were so many things that were still very innovative and still something that's worth catching. And also after a while, once you get through the puppet bias, you definitely you're just amazed at how well the puppets are built. From the Skeksis to the Gelflings to the
Potlings.
The Potlings and all that. Like every single puppet was just amazing. So overall it was a very enjoyable watch. Very heavy at times.
I think some of them were not just puppets. I think the rock creature was definitely
CGI.
It's a mix. It's a mix.
But how they intertwine the CGI with
the difference?
It's so cool. So again, I had so much fun watching this. I really, really you're right. I think this will be the first time you use the word masterpiece.
Yes, one of the first times. How about you, Isa?
Oh man, I think after episode 2, right, when I got past the fact that I am not used at all to watching puppets on screen. Like it's been a long while, and it's not like the Muppets, right, or like Sesame Street where it's very clearly like
for children.
For children, and the fact that them being puppets doesn't kind of break the immersion because in the first 2 episodes it was hard for me to do so. you start to notice all these little details, right? In the world, in the way that the plants are created, in the way that, you know, they will catch the light. And I think that for me really kind of cemented the medium itself, right? Like coming from a place of, oh man, this makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, to a place where like, oh, I understand why. Like, you know, for Henson, the puppets catch light in a very different way, right? There's something that you can't replicate.
They're real, they're tangible, they're tactile.
Yeah,
it's more vivid and also more surreal.
And that, I think, to me, really was that was the turning point for me, right? Where I started to notice a lot more things than just my discomfort and the fact that I'm not used to seeing puppets, right? It kind of reminded me a bit of this manhwa that got turned into an anime. It was like an anime / puppet thing, like all Chinese characters, all Chinese puppets as well. I couldn't look past that. Like I had a real big difficulty there, but our friend Chris finished the entire series.
Oh wow!
As well. So I'm glad I gave it a shot. I really am, because like just to see how much skill it takes to the acting takes, right? And like it's quite amazing the way that it was shot. Like I had trouble figuring out how they were shooting some of the scenes, just because how do you hide the people, you know?
Exactly,
like how do you hide the people? How do you like scale everything so that it looks natural? Because the camera work was so dynamic, right? It was so beautiful and so rich. In terms of like every frame, there's just so many things in there that look and feel real. You know,
so vivid. I agree.
I mean, above and beyond that, the story itself, I think I kind of figured out going into it where they were kind of going to go with that. Again, it's the attention to detail. Right, that really, really blew me away in terms of the various character arcs, in terms of even the minor characters and how like their cultural like biases show through. Even how like the world building and the terminology they use is so like kind of ingrained into the script itself that you can't help but be invested in everything that they're doing.
Weirdly enough, a large part of the story actually concerns puppets being biased against each other. So puppet bias is a big part of this. I mean, we did mention all the voice acting as well, but I do have to point out that Netflix actually credits each character as two actors. One is the voice actor and one is the puppeteer. So it's very important to showcase that, because so much of the performance is in the puppeteer as well, and not just in the voice,
it's
unlike traditional animation.
It's just that Netflix kind of let you skip the credits, so you don't really watch the credits.
Or you can watch, at the back end, or in fact, once the series finishes, you can watch the making of as well.
Which I was going to just recommend that you should watch the making of,
it's so important.
Definitely. Superlative voice acting, sublime puppetry combines to make a really great show. All the creatures are great. The podlings are great. The Aerophim, I think, are mostly CGI. These are the bog-like spiders that you encounter. They actually made a few Star Trek jokes there because they are so much like the bog, so you couldn't get around it. But the show's true larger-than-life delights are actually the Skeksis, voiced by like a murderous row of talent. Simon Pegg is the Chamberlain. Jason Isaacs is Emperor. Harvey Fierstein is Gormand. Mark Hamill is Scientist. Aquafina and Andy Samberg are the Collector and the Heretic.
Brilliant.
So these guys, right, they're so bigger and larger than life.
You need that kind of actor.
I mean, just I loved it, and the villains are so terrifying in their ugliness, inside and out, their grossness, the mucus,
like the mucus,
and everything.
Oh my god, that gets me every time.
Exactly, right. So I think the voice cast, the design, the camera direction, and all went big in displaying the villains. And whereas the heroes were more nuanced, like that. Did you know that there were over 170 puppets built by the Jim Henson Creature Shop for this series? Operated by 83 puppeteers. It's insane. All these characters are textured marvels brought to life by expert craftsmanship, and spellbindingly effective performances.
I agree.
But beyond the technical wizardry, I think the prequel is a good cautionary tale that is emotionally resonant and thematically urgent. The Skeksis label all evidence of the quote-unquote darkening, which is Tra's state of decay due to the misuse of the crystal. Essentially, they are labeling it as fake news and discrediting whistleblowers as like heretics. So the fact that they have convinced the world that their greed is benevolent is the show's hardest hitting social-political / environmental allegory. Similarly, Age of Resistance's vibrant, joyful, and heartwarming fantasy might seem like an all-ages watch, right? But it can also be harrowing, and tragic, and frightening, never shying away from dark adult concepts, nightmarish imagery, and a good sense of tension.
Yeah.
This is essentially, in my opinion, the Rogue One of high fantasy. Considering the story and where it ends up, because it's not going to end well for them. So there's that level of tension there. So they're all doomed because of how the movie begins.
Yeah.
But the show gets you so invested in the people and the characters, like Rogue One does, that you root for them anyway. So you care for Deet and Hup and Bria and Rian so much. And even antagonists like Celadon, who is hateable but also somewhat sympathetic. When she becomes the irony of her becoming a puppet queen for the Skeksis. And it's because she is so human.
She is.
She becomes a puppet queen. So that's when the show went from good to great for me.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess, like I mentioned, besides the dedication to retaining the complex world and puppet artistry, Age of Resistance actually retains its warnings against corrupt leadership and ecological apathy as well, which increasingly feels more urgent as time goes on and the world is ending. Our own darkening is happening. So I guess in the end, like this combination of wondrous magic and political intrigue and compelling character dynamics and thoughtful themes and just majestic craftsmanship from all the writing team and the puppetry team and the director Louis Leterrier. So this is a staggering 10-hour spectacle that I can't recommend highly enough. It will enthrall long-time fans and newcomers alike. I think Jim Henson will be proud.
Yeah.
How would you guys rate this?
I'm giving it a solid 9 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Aisa?
Just because of the very Shakespearean puppet show within a puppet show.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In addition to that, right?
Yeah.
I'm definitely giving it a 9.5 out of 10.
Nice. That's a 9.5 from Aisa. I'm giving it a 9 as well.
Okay. I have just minus one called puppet bias, honestly.
Because puppet bias.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. If not, I'll give you a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But puppet bias, so minus one.
I think my minus 1 point was just the fantasy tropes that you actually pointed out. Yeah.
That
Which
also.
made it somewhat predictable towards the end. But other than that, perfection. It was 9 out of 10. Next up, we'll be talking about a new show by the creator of Bojack Horseman, Raphael Bob Wax. But it feels like I've talked about him forever because I reviewed his new short story collection last month. And of course, Bojack Horseman is the only show I think that we have unanimously given 10 out of 10.
Yes.
Because sometimes one of us will give 10 out of 10, the other will give 9, blah, blah, blah. But this is the only show, Bojack Horseman, Raphael Bob Waxburg, is the only one that we've given unanimous 10 out of 10, perfection.
Yeah.
And I don't think Raphael Bob Waxburg has ever delivered a season of television that has been below 9.
I don't think so.
Like from Bojack Horseman season 1 all the way to season 5 to Undone.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is just amazing.
Fucking master.
And he teams up with his Bojack Horseman writing partner, Kate Purdy, for this new show called Undone. And as great as Dark Crystal was, real highlight of the month, in my opinion, is Undone.
Ooh, I'm with you.
Yeah, it's a genre-bending, time-breaking, mind-expanding, rotoscoped animation series. If you don't know what that means, think Waking Life or Scanner Darkly.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, created by the Bojack Horseman team. Ostensibly, let me give you the premise. The show explores the elastic nature of reality through its central character, Alma, played by Rosa Salazar from Alita Battle Angel.
Big eyes.
I love her,
but we haven't.
I have never actually seen her act without
something
without mocap or without
mocap,
rotoscope. She's obviously a great actress. We've seen it, but maybe one day I'll see her act without the gimmicks. So after Alma gets into a near fatal car accident, she discovers she has a new relationship with time and tries to use this ability to find out the truth about her father's death. And the dad is played by Saul Goodman himself, Bob Odenkirk. While the premise is interesting, the show is so much more. It's beautifully surreal, and I want to use the word painterly in its aesthetic in the series.
Sense.
It's a visual marvel set in a celestial landscape of set inside one girl's damaged consciousness. Or is it? You don't know. So the way Undone inventively blends and drifts from reality to memory to delusion is such a sensory trip. But it's all emotionally grounded by a very powerful human story of mental illness, self-loathing, complicated relationships, ingrained family trauma, existential malaise. Bojack fans know that these are familiar themes for Kate Purdy and Raphael Bob Waxburg, considering episodes like season 4's Alzheimer's episode Time's Arrow, which is actually the most reminiscent that the show is, and also season 5's drug-fueled Trip, the showstopper, where he ends up, choking his co-star, her co-star. Spoiler alert, sorry, for Bojack season 5. So these two episodes were actually collaborations from both of them, and you could kind of see the genesis of the show. That team up again finds, I think, profound success here in its heady exploration of difficult and painful subject matter. Yes, this hallucinogenic trip through time and reality is beautifully animated, and yes, its narrative is wonderfully written.
It is.
But through all the visual and structural flourish, the writers ground everything in the mess that is the human condition. I think I really like Alma. She's smart and funny and relatable, but she's also an asshole. Profoundly damaged and self-defeating, but not in the same way Bojack is. In a very different way. Her wit and graft is more akin to like Natasha Lyonne's character in Russian Doll, for example. So what did you guys think of Undone?
Well, first of all, it's an easy watch. It's only 8 episodes
of 20 minutes.
Right, 20
minutes.
You
can get through it in 3 hours or less.
But God, it was heavy, man. There were moments where I was just amazed at where the story was bringing me. Throughout I was like, whoa, did we just go there? Like the whole time traveling thing was done so beautifully, and like you can't really tell whether it is really whether it's reality or fantasy lah.
Is this the real
But you know what I mean, right? Yeah. And again, it's just the voice acting. Okay, not really voice acting, because they're really acting.
Correct.
It's just that it's rotoscope over. And when Bob Odenkirk again is a masterful actor, but really I think the star of this was really Rosa lah. Like just that the way that that loop that she was in
that episode also, I think.
That loop episode just got me, man. The her performance there was great, and when you look at the making of of Undone, you're like amazed at how technical and how like just why do you put yourself through that? You know? But then you understand why, like, I mean, it's to create a masterpiece. Like, for you to create such a masterpiece, you need to go through that kind of like work. But again, a lot of the things you hit on already. The mental issues that you see what's her name? Alma going through, and you kind of sympathize with her at times, but you see when like she's toxic towards like her sister, especially when she's toxic to like her boyfriend, to her mom, and these people trying to help her throughout, but then every time also getting hurt along the way. It's not as self-destructive as Bojack Horseman, I feel, but it is definitely painful to watch at times also. Throughout the thing.
I agree. I think Alma's drift through time and reality kind of follows an emotional logic.
Yes.
Which I think I say this all the time. It perfectly encapsulates everything I love about storytelling. The logic of how how a character gets from point A to point B doesn't matter to me. What's more important is the meaning of the journey for the character and how the audience feels what the character feels. I think that show does it pretty well. Alma's flaws don't exist in a vacuum either. And the deep dive into her complex relationships with, like you mentioned, her mother, father, sister, boyfriend, all shed light into different aspects of her damage. Whether Alma's experience is truly sci-fi, explained by quantum physics, or maybe it's indigenous shamanism, or whether it's just a heartbreaking depiction of schizophrenia and hereditary mental illness, is up to your interpretation. And that's the beauty of it. I think it evokes strong, potent emotion and raises pertinent questions about pain and grief and choice and life that are difficult to answer because there are no right answers for these questions. At just 20 minutes each a piece, this 8-episode season, as you mentioned, is fast, super satisfying, and thoughtful binge. Animation is phenomenal. The rotoscope performances are exceptional. The story is ambiguous but also addictive, and it's also a murder mystery. And through it all, it never loses sight of its character's humanity. Isa was in Reservist this month. Did you manage to catch this as well? Or Isa didn't catch this? So Hadi, wrap it up. Like, what are your concluding thoughts for this?
Concluding thoughts is a definite must watch. Again, this is the second time you use the word masterpiece, I think.
Yeah. And the one time in all the 4 times I'm going to use it that I feel is the most deserved. This is the most deserved. I kind of not want season 2. I don't know, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I hope not lah.
Yeah.
I hope this is the end because the way it ended was so fucking brilliant.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, no spoilers, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh, it's a
perfect
fucking
show.
10 out of 10 for me also.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely no question. There's nothing wrong with the series at all.
Indeed. And if you're curious, the 6th and final season of Bojack Horseman actually debuts next month.
Exactly.
On October 25th.
Can't wait.
So I'm anticipating another 10 out of 10 there. It's Raphael Bob Waxberg. I think, right, Raphael Bob Waxberg has joined. You know, when I think about showrunners, I trust implicitly. There's never delivered one bad episode or one bad season. Raphael Bob Waxberg has joined in the class of David Simon and Vince Gilligan to me as someone who's like never delivered anything bad. Because, you know, some of my favorite...
Oh, that's important. Anything bad. Yeah, okay.
Some of my favorite showrunners like Joss Whedon and Aaron Sorkin and David Milch and all that. There's
some stinkers.
There's some garbage in there, like here and there.
Correct.
But this one is just like nothing below 9 out of 10, you know.
That's true.
I think it's like David Simon, Vince Gilligan level. Think about Vince Gilligan, you know. Better Call Saul, never, right?
Kind of eclipse Breaking Bad.
Almost,
in his
right?
own way.
I mean, it depends, but it's close.
Yeah.
And this El Camino is coming out
Can't wait.
next
Have you
month
seen
as well.
the trailers and all? So great.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Vince Gilligan is like this.
Can you just cover it even though it's not genre?
Like it takes place in Jesse's head, right?
Exactly.
If that's the ending, we will cover it.
Okay. Please.
Next up, we'll be talking about a new anime by Makoto Shinkai, who is the creator and director of Your Name, a gargantuan success last year. Was it last year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, gargantuan success in Japan, Your Name, a fantastic anime. He is now back with a new anime called Weathering with You. All three of you managed to catch this?
Yes.
Hidzir, I was with you.
Alright, we went for the premiere.
Yes.
That was so long ago. That was like a full 3 weeks ago actually. We watched it the first week of the month. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yes. So 2 years after Your Name, Shinkai is back and he's parlayed that enormous goodwill into his latest feature, which is already outpacing Your Name in the domestic box office in Japan. It is set in an alternate version of Tokyo, plagued by endless torrential rain. It follows the stormy love story between a teenage runaway named Hidaka and a young orphan named Hina with the supernatural ability to conjure sunshine. Much like Your Name, Weathering with You draws us into a compelling love story first, backdropped by traditional Shinto elements and fantasy characteristics, before breaking our hearts. Hodaka and Hina's relationship is easy to root for, while the film's themes of environmental concern explores why humans might be unwilling to make necessary sacrifices in order to stem ecological disaster. The tug between rain and sun and selfishness and selflessness is the same thing. And dazzlingly animated. I think the animation is really gorgeous. It might actually be prettier than Your Name.
Yes.
Just in terms of just aesthetically, superficially. The photorealistic cityscapes and the magical sequences. I think perhaps is brave, dystopian climax and vague messaging might be divisive, but we'll get into that later. But I think the film's love story and humor and gushing emotion and stunning imagery and the killer Radwimp soundtrack yet again will almost certainly sweep you off your feet. What do you guys think about this movie as a whole?
When I didn't fall asleep. Because remember the last time I watched whenever I watch anime stuff, I always this kind of story I always fall asleep.
You fell asleep during Your Name?
No. The other one.
The other one. Oh yeah.
What was it? I can't remember the one with the fox and all that stuff. The one in the house with the girl and the little boy. So anyway, I was awake throughout this entire thing. I was at awe at everything that was happening. The great cameos that happened, and then the whole place like this went into this rapturous applause.
Yeah, we won't spoil the cameos. But
we won't.
They're a big deal.
Yeah. And the geographical fantasy was kind of cool, like having this whole cloud thing. You know, like the cloud fantasy world. Yeah. But it was just so beautifully drawn, you know. A lot of things that you hit on already. But I was really intrigued by the chemistry between the two characters, and how invested I was in their story lah. I mean, I didn't agree with a lot of the things at the end, but yeah, you know. But
I understand why.
But I understand lah, you know, they're how young they are and all that. You know, you're gonna do stupid things lah anyway. Yeah. And the whole idea of love triumphs over everything, you know. So lame.
Over the environment, apparently.
But okay lah, you know.
Yeah,
okay
sure.
lah. Yeah, but overall I had such a blast watching this.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually like my anime with a lot of action, a lot of blood, a lot of like, big fights and all that stuff.
Like
this
Vinland Saga or something.
exactly. But so this is an interesting change of pace lah. And
it's a love story.
Exactly.
But there are a lot of love enemies.
Yeah, but it's not my thing, ma. I don't really watch it that often. Yeah. So when I watched it, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. It kind of just blew my mind lah. Yeah.
Right.
But it's so beautifully drawn. Really, I cannot. I love how artistic the three things that we've talked about,
Yeah.
From Dark Crystal to Undone and to this.
Yeah.
Just how well everything.
We still have more to go.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
Before that, let's go to the king of the anime corner. Isa Feng, what do you think of Weathering with You?
I'm gonna do like a short tangent to this, right? One of the things that I watched very early on as I got into anime that really blew me away was the rain scene in the Cowboy Bebop movie. I think that was one of the moments that kind of cemented for me like what the medium could actually do. And this was way back when, right? Yeah. So for an entire movie to be able to do rain scenes one after another, never get it tired, always look beautiful, always look dynamic, and always look like I felt cold in the cinema, like literally, even though it was a ridiculously hot day outside.
We're talking about Toy Story's 4 opening rain scene also, but think about that in 2 hours.
And it was just like perpetually, right? You're just drenched. The screen is drenched in rain. Yeah. And for them to be able to animate all of that is a testament to how far the medium has come. And I think like how well they have used technology to kind of like further, the medium itself. In terms of, it is beautiful and whimsical in a way that Your Name is not. I think where it's heavy and cerebral in Your Name, it is beautiful and whimsical here in Weathering with You. It's tough to compare the enemies.
Sure.
For what they are, right? Because they're two very different types of stories. It is interesting to see where Shinkai is going to go with this, given the cameos. So I am interested to see where you've got kind of this fantasy / sci-fi alternate reality going on with...
I think it's more fantasy, right?
I don't know, because we do have time travel in...
Oh, sure. Yeah, you're right.
Your Name.
Right. Yeah,
and now we have weather control.
Yeah, you're right.
And it has Shinto beliefs and Shinto elements and all that. It's all rooted in that kind of...
religious belief.
That kind of religious backdrop, right? But at the same time, the elements of it are well known to anime and are clearly sci-fi, right? So I'm curious to see where they're gonna go with it, because like the Shinto kind of like imagery feeds into very real physical consequences for all the characters, both in Your Name as well as here in Weathering with You.
Correct.
Gorgeous. Really, really gorgeous. I really felt for the two characters and the young love that they shared. I think in this particular case, especially, like the consequences of their actions were more well explored than they were in Your Name.
Yes.
Like the way that it kind of closed out as well. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what Shinkai does next. It does feel a lot like a nice kind of segue into something bigger, as well as it was a nice love story with consequences, right? And that's something that we don't always get. I thought that was both risky, and while I agree with both of you that it didn't feel like the right way to end things, I guess. Sure, let's see where this goes.
I think in terms of relationship, maybe not the right way to end things, but conceptually, the idea of where the world is at the end of the film, they ended the movie at the wrong place, because not because I don't like it, but because the movie ended just when I became most interested.
For sure.
It's like, what is next? What is Weathering with You 2? Is it Kevin Costner's Waterworld? Who knows, right?
I will watch that.
Yeah.
No, it won't be, because it only have... Okay, never mind. Spoiler, too much spoilers.
For both Waterworld and Weathering with You. I think that visually and emotionally, Weathering with You is a triumph. Even if it doesn't quite reach the heady complexity and transcendent heights of Your Name. How would you guys rate this in the end?
I'll give it a solid 8.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 8.5.
Just for doing something different and for how beautiful and technical all of the production was, right? I'm gonna give it a 9.
Nice. Okay, I'm giving it an 8.
Okay.
Cool. It's rare that I'm actually the lowest amongst the three. Actually, no lah. Hadi is...
I'm always the highest.
You're always the highest, yeah. But Yeah.
But
yeah.
you two usually are
the more critical, right? Yeah. But I mean, 8 is still a very high score, 8.5 and 9 as well. So high recommends all across the board. Next up, we are talking about a new film by James Gray, who directed The Lost City of Z. If you haven't seen that, please watch that as well. It's called Ad Astra. If you don't know what it means, it's actually Latin for to the sky.
Yeah.
Or to the stars, actually.
To the stars, which is NASA's motto.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Ad Astra isn't just the finest sci-fi film of 2019, in my opinion. I think it's just one of the best movies of the year, period. And it's also probably the best hard sci-fi film since The Martian. Although set against this infinitely stunning interstellar canvas, the space epic is actually a pretty quiet and contemplative and intimate and deeply profound character drama.
Yeah.
Mostly. The movie follows an emotionally detached and cool-headed astronaut named Roy McBride, played by Brad Pitt in one of his best performances ever. Very underrated actor, and probably his second Oscar nomination this year after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. As he travels to the outer edges of the solar system to find his missing father and unravel a mystery that threatens the survival of our planet. It sounds like a big scope, and yes, it is. It's a sweeping scope. Set out in this magisterial cosmos landscape, but it manages to feel incredibly small scale, and that's a compliment actually, because it's focused meditation on one man's internal conflict between the isolation that comes with his ambition and his obsession with exploration against a fundamental human need for connection. Those are the stakes of Ad Astra. I mean, the grander stakes are there lah. They're the world-ending variety, but its themes are very personal. It's a story about a son's admiration for his father, and what happens when that father isn't what he thought he was. Is your hero to be that you emulate and revere? Is that your hero, or is he a cautionary tale? Yes, there are some eloquent narration, but the emotion is mostly told through Pitt's taciturn performance. His journey from driven and unemotional to crying and yearning is very subtle and expertly and efficiently conveyed, I think. What do you guys think about Ad Astra?
I'm down with you with everything you said, but I have to highlight the voiceovers. I thought they were done kind of brilliantly. Like usually if a movie puts in too many voiceovers, it kind of fucks things up.
Unless it's like noir lah, and that's
part
of the genre.
That is the genre. But how they kind of, it makes sense because Brad Pitt doesn't really say much. And it's kind of cool to have that like internal like
philosophizing. That one. That's happening throughout the thing. Again, the theme of loneliness, the theme of like isolation, right, is so awesome. And I like how they put him, how they keep isolating him throughout the entire journey certain. Can I just spoil one thing? Sure, yeah.
Fucking baboons.
Baboons, yeah, man. Sure. Baboons.
That got me. I was like, that took me out of it for a while. So, oh shit, baboons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never seen baboons fight in space before.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Small 2-minute scene or something like
that. I've seen baboons fight on Planet of the Apes, but not in space.
But not in space.
Yeah.
And also in Planet of the Apes, they're not baboons. They're all like chimpanzees or like gorillas.
I think there were baboons in Tim Burton's one.
Oh, the 2001 one.
The less said about that, the better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but anyway, this one, right? Yeah, but Brad Pitt, man. God damn. This was a Brad Pitt movie.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? This is not like Once Upon a Time where there's, you're sharing with Leo and something like that.
Actually, I think Brad Pitt is a supporting role in Once Upon a Time, which could get him the Oscar for that and a leading nomination for this one. So it could be a twofer next year.
I don't mind, man.
Yeah.
Like, he deserves it so well. Like, everything that... How he had this control over his face is amazing.
Underrated, just because he's so pretty.
Exactly. Just because he's so good looking. And again, Liv Tyler sending another boy to space. The tropes has been going along everywhere.
I just want to imagine that this is set in the same universe. And then like he left Ben Affleck, was it?
Yeah.
And then like married this guy. It's like, oh my god, it's the same thing again.
But I
at
like...
At least he wasn't like a driller this time.
Yeah.
And he's an actual astronaut.
He's an actual astronaut.
So she should have expected him to go to space.
Yeah.
If you marry an oil man, like, when are you ever going to space? You're never going to space.
I feel that this universe was set in a way that...
more realistic than Armageddon, yes.
That, of course, yes. What do you call those things where it's a bit more futuristic, but
Near
it's still
future?
near future. Yeah. I don't know why that took me some time to think about.
As opposed to far future.
So near future kind of tech is quite cool. That moon scene,
The
so
dune buggy
beautifully,
chase.
right?
Yeah.
Done, right? It's not that the level of like Interstellar, that grand and epic like space odyssey kind of feel.
But like we mentioned, it's very personal.
But it's very
small scale,
which I really appreciate, and I really enjoyed this movie throughout.
What do you think about it, Isa? Did you manage to watch it?
Yes, I did. Let me just start off by saying that it was not the movie that I expected it to be. I mean, I had just barely watched the trailer, right? And I think the trailer did a great job of not really giving anything away.
Yeah.
But I was not prepared for how slow a burn it was, right? And it's a bit difficult to kind of like capture the entire experience. Like when I was asked what the movie is about, I basically said, well, Brad Pitt goes to space to deal with his daddy issues, right? Which is the summary of the story.
But doesn't quite sell it, right?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite sell it at all. Like, how do you describe the fact that this might be the first time since 2001, right? Since Space Odyssey 2001, where space is now art house again.
Yeah.
Right?
I think got films like Moon.
Yeah, but
There was
not
Gravity, so it's kind of art housey.
but not to this extent,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay, I give you that.
Right? Like, it was so... the choices that they made cinematographically and how that really tied in together with the moment, right?
Yes.
And the fact that Brad Pitt is just gorgeous in any sort of lighting is pretty mind-blowing. I feel like I wasn't prepared for how slow a burn it was, but I enjoyed it immensely. Even the action sequences were paced in the same way, right? Like the dune buggy scene was paced in the same way. The space station, the rescue scene was also paced in the same way. Like at every moment, it never broke that pace, and I think it felt like that kind of relentless movement forward, despite how glacial it felt, was very compelling for me.
Yeah,
right. Like because that didn't change throughout the entire thing. I wasn't like surprised by anything. It gave me enough space and enough time to kind of like immerse myself in all these amazing visuals that they're putting out, as well as trying to understand where Pitt's character is coming from, where Roy is coming from. So beautiful. I like Pitt's performance is reminiscent to me of Robert Redford's performance in All Is Lost.
Yeah.
With obviously a lot more dialogue, but like a lot of quiet, right? And a lot of like solitary moments where he's just kind of monologuing to himself. And most of the time, I'm not a big fan of that, right? But it worked this time around. I think like set in the backdrop and the vacuum of space, it really did work,
correct?
Right? Which is rare, I think.
Yeah. I do also have to shout out Solaris, which is another great art house space movie, but they're few and far between. They come like every 30 years. At least the great ones. I did review High Life last month, but it wasn't near as great as this. So I mean, I loved it. The thematic depth, really, really weighty. The hypnotic mood it puts you in. The emotional potency also. I love the film's flourishes, and like you mentioned, the near future elements are the things that I particularly enjoy. Some of the details, like the commercial tourism to the moon. It's viable with replete with like $125 charge if you request a hot towel.
Yeah, man.
Which is so believable.
But makes sense with inflation and you're going to space
Correct. And the wonder of the solar system is littered with the mundanity of humankind and cheap commercialism. There's a Subway and Applebee's and DHL on celestial bodies.
Yeah, the Yoshinoya.
Yeah, Yoshinoya. The moon is now like the oceans of the 18th century, operating
Pirates
under
of the Caribbean.
Correct. It's operating under maritime law, which is what space law is.
Yeah.
Plagued by pirates on lunar rovers.
And also the organization that Brad Pitt is part It's Trump's Space Force
Space Force essentially Indeed, man. Really liked it. Besides the dune buggy scene, which we can't talk more about but it's great and also a distress ship in space that has baboons, which it's just insane. And a particularly dramatic spacewalking sequence. I think each scene functions as a building block in the tale that Gray is telling about Roy, whose dispassionate professionalism saves lives on many occasions, but who might not have enough empathy for the world around him.
Yeah.
In I think a tremendous final act. I really love the third act. Gray fleshes out all those dilemmas gently but powerfully.
Yeah.
The lesson of the film is a straightforward one.
Yeah.
That in the future people will need to rely on one another.
Mhm.
And Ad Astra communicates it with
Pretty well.
staggering profundity.
Yeah.
There are superficial similarities to Interstellar, but really Ad Astra is more like a space version of Heart of Darkness or Apocalypse Now. It's less about man's relationship with the great unknown than what can happen when a man loses his relationship with humanity. And it's beautiful and brilliant. What do you guys think about it? Any concluding thoughts?
If you haven't watched it, go and watch it now.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised at how it's quite. It feels long, but it's actually not that long, right? But brilliantly done. I had a blast, lah. Except for the people talking behind me in the cinema.
Oh damn.
Yeah, annoying. But yeah.
I think the essential difference for me between Interstellar and this, right, both being space epics in their own right, is that Interstellar tried to hit us over the head with the fact that love triumphs over all, right, through space. And this is a lot more grounded. It's a lot more nuanced in terms of that. I mean, I do feel like at the very end, the imagery, at the very end when he comes back to Earth is, still a little unwieldy, maybe, and a bit like blunt, but not in the same way that Nolan did with Interstellar. And it's very, very different, both in terms of its form, its look, and the delivery of that. And I really enjoyed it.
I would give it. I was very high on this coming out of the cinema. I was texting them actually. I thought I was about giving it a 9.5, but time usually tempers it. There's some things like Undone that it's just like 10 forever. But I kind of lowered it a bit, so I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10, which is still a huge recommendation.
Yeah, it's 8.5 for me too.
What about you, Hadi?
Same 8.5.
Cool. Okay. And once again, truly hope that Brad Pitt at least wins one Oscar next year, either for this or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because he really deserves it. This is his year, man. Next up, I'll be talking about the new film from Ari Aster, the phenomenal director of Hereditary. It is called Midsommar. So after delivering a horror masterpiece in his debut feature, we all loved Hereditary here, right?
Yeah, we did.
Ari Aster pivots from very dark and claustrophobic corridors into sunny and flowered open fields of Sweden for his much anticipated follow-up.
Yeah.
Midsommar plays a bit like Ari Aster's version of The Wicker Man. It is part Scandinavian folk horror and part breakup horror.
Yeah.
It is set in the bright sunlight of a secluded Swedish village.
Cool.
Do you watch it as well?
A bit.
Okay, cool. A bit. What do you mean? You fell asleep?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet I pretty much figured lah.
Yeah.
The film tells the story of a young woman named Dani, played by Florence Pugh, who is gripped with grief after a horrific family tragedy. I won't spoil it lah, but it's a horrific family tragedy early on in the movie, and she finds little solace from her increasingly distant boyfriend Christian. When Christian begrudgingly invites Dani to join him and some fellow anthropology graduate students on a trip to visit a community known as the Harga, their fates are essentially sealed. They become more than just observers, but pawns in a series of rituals and customs that play out with harrowing consequences.
Okay.
The movie knows that we know where the story is going. From the trailer itself, you know that this kid's about to be sacrificed. So that isn't the point of the movie.
Yeah.
The greatness of the movie isn't the story, which we all know. It lies in Dani's character arc. And Florence Pugh's tremendous performance, which cycles from nuance to huge emotional outbursts as a perpetually gaslit girlfriend. Plus Esther's stylistic choices and symbolism really is what makes the movie stand out. Those looking for a jump-a-minute scarefest should probably look elsewhere. This isn't that kind of horror movie.
Yeah.
Midsommar has other things on its mind. The film is never outright scary, but it's similar to Hereditary in that it builds a significant amount of dread over time.
Okay.
Astor uses daylight to its advantage, utilizing an aesthetic that is not seen in horror films, or not usually seen because it is so brightly lit all the time. You're in the open field. Everything from the beauty of the arts, the beauty of the nature, the costumes, the rituals, the murals, is all there. You can see it all. But alongside it is the blood and gore, which are also highlighted under the sun. So it offers an unnerving juxtaposition. Most of the film's disturbing imagery is perverse because it's so even more perverse because it's brightly lit. What's really surprising though is how funny Midsommar is, and intentionally so. It's a mix of cultural arrogance and cultural ignorance from insensitive Americans that is always ripe for the plucking.
Yeah.
And bizarre rituals that offer a healthy dose of gallows humor into the proceedings. 1 minute you're laughing at pubic hair in meat pie, and the next you're cringing at some of the more grotesque displays of corpses found on this side of Hannibal. If you have seen Hannibal, the displays of bodies and stuff is really beautiful, but also
creepy,
but also really beautiful.
Yeah.
The disparity between the tones is great, and yet Astra weaves them together seamlessly. It's one of the more captivating feats of Midsommar. So I mean, since Hadi caught a bit of it, what do you catch of it, or how much of it did you
negligible lah. I was asleep for most of this. Sorry, my bad. I'm gonna watch it next week again, actually.
Okay.
Before it gets out of the run.
Okay.
Yeah, but from what I could tell, it was fun. I like the Scandinavian kind of culture that was going on. I felt that it adds that level of Viking authenticity, if that makes sense. But yeah, the whole sunshine thing really works now.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I mean, you're so used to seeing darkness,
and it kind of makes sense because of where it was located, lah.
Correct. And there's something unnerving also about about perpetual sunlight.
Right.
Yeah. I really also have to shout out the film's depiction of hallucinogenic drugs as well. It lends this trippy but not too distracting nightmarish effects. Oftentimes when I watch movies display psychedelic trips, I can tell that the director and the actors have never actually tripped before on acid or mushrooms.
They should have like a little experiment.
Correct, right? This movie though, my god, it depicts it so accurately, from the breathing, how they're breathing, how the cadence of the actors, to the very subtle VFX employed. It's not big grand Noah Hawley kind of things.
You don't need.
Yeah. It's pitch perfect. Because if the tripping was too visually loud, it could distract you from the characters. But if you play it too subtle, you
might lose it.
You might lose it. You only be paying attention to the actors. So this was the perfect balance.
Correct.
Where everything enhanced the character's emotional state while simultaneously keeping the audience off balance and hypnotized.
All right.
Midsommar is psychologically robust, I think, and quite an emotional mindfuck. Of the highest order. It kind of channels this young woman's journey through grief and a toxic relationship. At 140 minutes, the film is deliberate, but I felt never boring. Aided by Florence Pugh's phenomenal performance, as well as its stunning visuals. Really, really loved it. I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Alright, that's not a bad score. I'm not giving it a score yet.
Okay, Hadi hasn't seen enough of it
to justify a score.
Not as great as Hereditary, but still really worth your time as well.
Okay.
Next up, I'll be talking about Steven Universe, the movie.
How did that go?
It is set 2 years after Steven Universe's series finale, entitled Change Your Mind. This animated feature finds Steven, who is now 16 and post-puberty and has a neck. And the gems are adjusting to a peaceful life in a world where Earth and Homeworld have become allies. They're friends now. But their happily ever after is cut short when a new threat arrives with a very understandable grudge against Steven's mum, right? Rose Quartz.
Yep.
The story is a tried and true Steven Universe narrative. It revisits familiar themes which involve reconciling an ugly past with Steven's growth through love and friendship and empathy. But while the story is familiar, Rebecca Sugar and her team continue to work with a seemingly bottomless well of ingenuity, finding ways to circumvent expectations to explore new, emotionally complex territory years later. The movie does so in a scale that will wow fans. How so? Well, for one, a series of 10-minute shorts. If you watch the show, right? It's now a 90-minute movie, that's huge, And while the show has always been praised for its musical numbers, the movie is a full-on, big, brassy, old Hollywood-type musical.
Oh, wow.
There's barely a minute that goes by without a beautiful new song about their inner feelings that drives the narrative forward. The consistent catchiness of the movie's songs, their different styles and tones, is a feat even by Steven Universe's standards.
Wow. Okay.
Nearly every member of the movie's sprawling cast is featured in a musical performance that highlights important, less obvious elements of their characters. These amazing numbers are written by, of course, series creator Rebecca Sugar, series composers Ivy and Surashu, alongside Estelle, Amy Mann, Chance the Rapper, James Fulton-Roy, and a lot of other people. And they all feel like a concentrated effort to elevate Steven Universe as an explicitly musical endeavor this time. It's an effort that works really, really well. Some of the big musical numbers and lyrics feature callbacks But many of the more intimate songs, like Let Us Adore You, reveal new things about Steven and the Gems in fascinating ways, while others introduce left field new fusions, like the out of nowhere fusion between Steven and his father, which is insane. Yeah, I'm sorry for spoiling that for Isa, but
it's okay.
That is one of the more crazy, like, wow, I had to rewind that moments. What the fuck? Steven and his dad fused. That being said, the most heartfelt number actually revolves around the movie's villain called Spinel. I did not know this, but Spinel is actually a gem. I mean, of course, all the characters are named the gems, but I didn't know that Spinel was a gem. So apparently, Spinel is it's kind of a degraded version of a quartz. Which I guess is intentional.
Plays into the right, okay.
And she has a really, really heartbreaking backstory. Probably the most heartbreaking backstory of any of the antagonists that Steven Universe has ever had. What happened to her is truly shockingly cruel, which lends credence to her grudge that few of other Steven Universe's external conflicts has ever had. Like, she really has legit grievances,
Okay.
Plus, Spinel's design is really cool. It's reminiscent of old school animation circa 1920s, 1930s Disney.
Nice.
I don't know whether you've ever seen, when Pixar or Disney comes out, there's the old black and white Mickey Mouse on a boat. Yeah. So she's animated like that. So it's very different from the usual Steven Universe animated animation. Yeah. I think in the end, the movie, much like the show, is about change and growth. And part of moving forward deals with facing the consequences and trauma of the past. We always have to reckon with the mistakes of past generations and the damage we all suffer. And in growing, we must also remember all the defining experiences and emotions that make us who we are.
Yep.
One of the things that happens to all the gems is Spinel hits them with some sort of magical blade that basically resets them to factory settings. So they have no memory of anything
that has happened on the series.
Yeah, on the series or ever. So they just reset to the beginning. And they have to find who they are. And they do it through song, of course, Steven Universe. It in many ways, the movie feels like the greatest hits version of the show in theme, but it's done so well. The show is about abandonment, compassion, mercy, empathy, and the need for found family, which is very relevant to the show's radically queer storytelling. And it's, I think, by now primarily queer audience, which has kind of rallied around the show. As a Steven Universe story, this is one of the show's best. As a musical, it's great, with songs that can go toe to toe with some of the best in the series. Rebecca Sugar and her crew really deserve a standing ovation for this. It's an 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
Isa hasn't had the chance to watch it, right?
Yes, unfortunately. So, a couple questions, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that this movie is a stepping stone for them to continue the series from where it has left off?
It could and it could not. If it ended this way, it's fine. But Rebecca Sugar has said that the series didn't really end. It was kind of a fake series finale.
I figured as much, right? Because they announced the movie and all that. Okay, so personally, do you want it to continue?
I wouldn't mind if they can keep up the quality. They found new ways to explore old themes. As long as they can keep doing that ingeniously, I'm cool with that. It's all about execution.
Okay, yeah. I'm definitely. I mean, it is on my to watch list for sure. I'm curious to see where this goes.
Steven Universe as a troubled teen is an interesting direction that they can go.
For sure. I mean, like, even as a child trying to wrestle with his origins, right? And who his parents is, and this fantastical family that he's a part of, that was compelling enough. I'm curious to see where they will go with him as a teen. And like I feel like in everything that we've talked about, they've set the bar really high,
very high.
So we'll see. I guess.
I have enormous faith in Rebecca Sugar. She hasn't really done anything wrong with Steven Universe, so no reason to doubt her if she wants to bring it forward. And if she wants to end it here, it's quite perfect as well. So whatever she wants to do, I'm down with that. Next up, I think Hadi has also watched It Chapter 2.
I have.
Has Isa watched It Chapter 2?
No, based upon what we talked about, no.
Okay. This is the sequel to Andy Muschietti's version of It, the 2017 horror sensation, which was set 27 years after the events of the first. It's set 27 years after the events of the first film. It once again pits the Losers Club, who are all now adults, against Stephen King's demonic clown. It is bigger, longer, and a much grander take with cosmic illusions. But at nearly 3 hours, its bloat keeps it from floating, as Pennywise would say.
It was bloated.
I think like despite the scene-stealing showcase for Bill Hader, who really was the gem of the show.
Like he
of
just
this movie.
continued the spirit of Finn Wolfhard.
Correct, yeah. And I think like Bill Skarsgård also once again kills it as Pennywise.
Yeah.
I think It Chapter 2 is a very clunky, messy, and overlong film. It trades in psychological horror and the Spielbergian charm of the original for repetitious jump scares that verges on narrative indiscipline at times.
Yep.
And this film really could have used a couple more months in the editing suite.
Yeah.
The dragging pace diminishes the film's ability to hold us in its grip. And this is like endless flashback sequences to the characters as kids grow especially tiresome. Muschietti must have... Ah man, I almost don't want to say this because I haven't seen this show in a long time. But Muschietti feels like he's taken the Attack on Titan school of storytelling, where he decides to squeeze in the highlights from the first one into this one just in case you didn't see the previous episode. Yeah, the scare sequences are bigger, faster, and more frequent, which means there's an issue of diminishing returns in terms of tension and surprise.
Yeah.
At around the 90-minute mark, I would say.
Yeah.
You stop feeling anything at all except for boredom.
Yeah.
King's novel is admittedly also spread out and repetitive in this nature. So in regard to It Chapter 2, it's actually technically more faithful to the original.
It is.
Yeah, to the book at
to the
least,
book, yeah.
than its predecessor. But it just doesn't work for me. What do you think?
Apart from like individual performances, right? What you said, I think a lot of it was just the expectations we had after watching it, and then we saw the cast, the adult cast, and like, oh, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great casting. Mostly.
Yeah, it's great casting. Yeah, and so therefore we really had really high hopes for this lah. At the same time, you're right. Like there was so many of the scares that just didn't like get you anymore. Like the whole
they kept repeating the same scares.
Yeah, and like Pennywise, like the kids whenever like the kids like go under the bleachers and then get eaten by Pennywise, like it didn't even affect me, and that was like near the beginning of the film also actually.
The second act where they all went on individual solo quests.
Yeah,
and it was the same.
And it was the same scare over and over.
Yeah.
So that didn't like didn't have the whole the whole giant thing that was attacking Bill Hader.
Yeah. The entire second act I felt. Where they all went for the individual solo thing
was very overlong. Like,
could have been cut out entirely and wouldn't have affected the film.
Would not.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Because one of them could have just like, hey, I found the magical thing.
We all found our things. Now let's go down and go and fight Pennywise.
Exactly. Yeah. And it would have greatly helped the film.
Yeah, because the Pennywise part was too good. The last fight scene. I mean, spoiler alert, there's gonna be a fight at the end.
Yeah. Although I mean, admittedly, also towards the end, it became more of a superhero film. Than a horror film.
That's true because Yeah.
So there is a bit of
genre twisting there.
Genre twisting or like troll hunters kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Towards, fighting the big bad creature.
Yeah. But we always expected them to have to do this kind of battle with Pennywise now. I mean, when they were kids, they already had that whole hellscape dancing clown bullshit thing that happened. So I felt that I mean, delving into like the lore and all that about how Pennywise is actually from somewhere else, and the shamanistic kind of thing that you had going on, the journey of the black guy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But
who stayed the one who stayed in town?
Yeah. Old Spice guy. Yeah. He's the Old Spice.
He's the
model, like, if you didn't know.
Not Terry Crews.
Not Terry Crews. They had the rivalry thing also. But anyway, he did a great job, by the way. Isaiah Washington, I think that's his name. Yeah. I it was just so long. I kept on sighing throughout the entire movie. I was like, oh my god, seriously. Like the one when the girl, what's her name? The redhead.
Jessica Chastain?
No. I mean the character's name.
Jessica Chastain.
Jessica Chastain's character when she went into the old house again. Beverly, yes. Yeah. Nice one. Yeah, it didn't feel it. We kind of saw it in the first one. Yeah. This just like, I don't know. The whole, she's still in an abusive relationship. She's still...
but because she didn't remember the events of the first film.
None of them did, right?
So therefore she fell back into an abusive relationship because that's where she felt comfortable.
Exactly.
Which is sad in itself, and actually quite deep. But it didn't come across.
It didn't because they explored it for like 5 minutes only. Yeah. Anyway, again, I agree with you with every single point that this was overlong and just bloaty.
I think the film isn't an abject failure.
No, it's not.
It has some funny jokes, a couple of good performances, some really great creature design actually. and set design and some good cinematography. But when it comes down to it, Chapter 2 just isn't scary or emotionally satisfying.
It is not stitched together properly.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, all I can say is Bill Hader was the star. And poor Jessica Chastain and James McAvoy for Chapter 2 Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this is exactly like Dark Phoenix.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Poor them. Two summer blockbuster failures in a row. In the same month. It's fucking nuts.
The box office failures also.
I mean, this wasn't
as
Dark
good
Phoenix.
as
Dark Phoenix was like,
that was terrible, man.
Boy, I think they made like 1/4 of the budget.
Fox, you know what? Let's just kill all the goodwill, all of it.
Yeah, we're moving already.
Yeah, we're moving already.
They are in ORD mood, so to speak. This isn't great, man. This is 4 out of 10 for me.
I'll give it, because in the end I still kind of, I like the 5 I'll give it 5.
5, okay.
Just pass
Alright.
Yeah.
Next up, I'll be delving into a small section I would like to call Quick Hits, where I talk about the various things that my co-hosts haven't been able to watch because I watch TV and movies for a living. First thing I'd like to talk about is Young Justice Outsiders. After a 6-month hiatus and 5 years off the air before that, Young Justice returns for the second half of its sprawling third season. Outsiders' latest stretch of episodes continues at a very fast pace, offering more adventures for the team and the Justice League as they attempt to stop both the light and apocalypse on the streets and in space. I think Outsiders is quite... I mentioned this in my first review. It's quite savvy politically in terms of exploring big issues like human trafficking and immigrant refugees and fake news campaigns and the rise of xenophobia in geopolitics, especially for a young teen-centric show or tween-centric show. The media battle between Lex Luthor and Batman behind the scenes is the most fascinating part of Part 2, Season 3 Part 2 is what I felt. Because they are both creating these false flag operations to make both sides look good on social media. It's expected of Lex, but Batman trying to kind of out-Trump Lex crosses a lot of ethical lines, and of course Batman can do it too if he wants to. It reinforces the idea that Batman values control over morality, and his manipulation of the League and the Outsiders and the covert team almost splits everyone apart. I think Outsiders is more concerned about metahuman ethics than superheroics this season, tackling everything from diplomacy to social media to human rights to eugenics. Yes, there is dark side and the light and granny goodness and the anti-life equation, but those are all just kind of plot devices. I think most impressively the show, sometimes it struggles to do this, but I think in the end it balances its scope and themes and scale, because you do feel lost sometimes, but they always manage to bring you back in eventually. Despite the sprawling characters and the dense storylines. Did you guys catch Young Justice Outsiders?
I haven't got the second part yet.
Okay.
Yeah, me neither. So, what do you think, man?
There were several points in the series where I felt Young Justice was kind of juggling too many balls in the air, like way too many. Like not 1 or 2 more balls in the air, but like 20 more balls in the air than necessary.
Yeah.
But there's 20 extra subplots and 20 extra characters. But by the end, I think they stick the landing on all the arcs.
Okay.
Thematically and in terms of the characters as well. They finally the finale focused on Brion, who I think had the best arc of the season. And it really used him to showcase the thin lines heroes should or should not cross, and how very legitimate human mistakes can blur those lines.
Okay.
It has great action, especially in the finale, compelling character dynamics. Young Justice remains a very solid and very enjoyable teen cartoon. The only slight downside is it sometimes feels very overstuffed. Too many ideas and too many stories jostling for attention, meaning that none of them can truly stand out.
Do you feel like Season 3 Part 2 should have been its own season?
It could have been, but Season 3 Part 2 carried too much from the first part.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't think it could have stood alone. Yeah,
okay.
So it's in the end, it's a 7 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
I liked it, but could have been better and not as good as the first 2 seasons. Next up, I want to talk about something that I really liked actually. It's called Marianne. What?
Okay, correct. Marianne, correct.
Marianne. Did you watch Marianne?
Haven't. I thought you were going to talk about the island. That one I want to talk about.
Oh yeah, but that one is the last lah. I'm gonna talk about the good stuff first. But the island is also on Netflix, by the way. Marianne is an 8-episode French production that is now on Netflix. It follows a young author called Emma, who based a famous series of horror novels on nightmares that she's had since childhood.
Okay.
Despite the acclaim and fame she's gotten, she's decided to stop writing about horror to focus on quote-unquote more grown-up literature. Unfortunately, the minute she stops writing, she's terrified to find out that the evil witch from her books and dreams, Marianne, has come to life to wreak havoc on her and her loved ones back in her hometown. Marianne wants Emma to continue writing her story, and she's possessing and or killing her friends and family back home to compel her to do so.
Okay.
Now the series isn't as emotionally gripping as The Haunting of Hill House, for example, but that's a very high bar, and it's not high art like Hereditary. But what it is, it's a really effective and really creepy and really atmospheric, straight up traditional horror that does the fundamentals really well. It's back to basics. It's really good scares and a really good story and a really good acting. More than just the frights, the series protagonist Emma is really compelling as a very deeply flawed character. She is almost like I mentioned, once again, Natasha Lyonne in Russian Doll, who happens to be that character is really in right now.
Yeah, it is.
She's unlikable, but in an interesting way. She's a straight up mess. She's an alcoholic. She's selfish. She's self-destructive, and she's ashamed of some of the really fucked up things she did during her rebellious youth. So her journey back to hometown isn't just scary because of, the literal demon. She has a lot of figurative demons to confront when she's back home also, because she's kind of fucked over and taken advantage of a lot of people.
That's true.
The part I was most hooked by is her relationships with her whole old friends and her parents. They appear to love her, but you can see their resentment simmering underneath.
Yeah.
They want to forgive because she hasn't been back home in 15 years, but they haven't forgotten. Alongside the mystery of who is the witch and what does she want, you're also curious about what the fuck did she do during her youth that pissed off so many people. Emma isn't the typical fearful, reactive horror protagonist. She's extremely proactive to the point of being like super toxic. She is very good at emotionally manipulating people, and she disregards other people's well-being. So she's interesting to watch, even if she isn't cursed. And when you get to her backstory episode, which is a very well-executed emotional gut punch, you kind of understand why she is the way she is.
Yeah.
She's inherently charming, but once you get it, she is a very compelling heroine. The show is nothing revolutionary, but it is solid and it is addictive and it is worth your time. It's a 7.5 out of 10 for me.
Not bad.
Yeah, really like this one. Next up, I'm going to be talking about a new Amazon, I think. Yeah, I think it's Amazon Prime show called Carnival Row. It's set in a neo-Victorian world. It's a fantasy meets neo-noir series that focuses on various races of fantastical creatures that also happen to be immigrants, attempting to live side by side with humans who previously invaded their homelands. All these races, humans and mythical creatures, live in a steampunk boiling pot city where human elites look down on fairies that toil in the streets. Not exactly helping the tension is a series of grisly murders that rock the seedy slum known as Carnival Row, which is where the show gets its title from. The slayings coincide with the separate arrivals of human detective Rycroft Philostrates, oh my god, what a lame name, played by Orlando Bloom, and exiled fairy Vignette Stonemoss, played by Cara Delevingne, who are of course star-crossed lovers. Wait for it.
Yeah.
With secrets.
Oh no! Secrets?
It's an interesting premise, but it's an exhaustingly self-serious series. It's needlessly convoluted and boring.
Oh, boring.
Is the word. The series isn't a total bust. There is absolutely an audience for Carnival Row, just based on solely on the gorgeous production design, which is really good, costuming. And I think Cara Delevingne and Orlando Bloom has a lot of fans, so which will probably enjoy this. Pretty people hooking up. It just isn't for me.
Okay.
It's a 3 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. Next up, let's talk about The Island. It's not ISLEND.
No.
It's DI-LAND.
Yeah.
The basic premise is 10 people. It's on Netflix, by the way.
Yeah.
10 people wake up on an island with no memory of who they are or how they got back. They are, of course, part of some sort of experiment, but the question is what and why. Don't bother finding out. It's nothing about this lost ripoff will keep you watching past the first 20 minutes.
Oh my god.
The characters are terribly written. The dialogue is laughable. The acting is atrocious. And worst of all, it is boring. Nothing else to say to this except give it a miss.
This sucks so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my god, because I saw a random review on it, so I was like, I can't be that bad, I want to watch this.
Yeah, it's really bad, man.
It is so bad. So I just skip a few episodes to see, it has this let's try to be lost.
Sure.
A
lot of shows try to be lost and have Although fail, but are better.
Yeah.
There are lots of lost esque
But this
shows out
was
there.
ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
Ridiculously bad. Did you
Yeah.
get through it?
I watched about 30 minutes of it.
Okay. Yeah, I watched like the first 20 minutes of the first episode. Like they were like, it was just so weird. Like, wow, what the fuck was that, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay. Anyway, yeah, it's like a 1 out of 10 for me, lah.
It is a 0 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
But where does the 1 come from?
The one is on Netflix, lah. Maybe that's all, lah.
Oh, convenience.
Convenience, lah.
But it's not in the context of... Never mind, Ken.
There is nothing.
Convenience.
Yeah, convenience. There's nothing else going for it at all. Literally nothing else. Like, why did Netflix give money to these people? That's why, like, Netflix is just like throwing money out there and just see what sticks.
I don't think this is a Netflix production. They bought it. Or it was sold to them.
Or sold to
For a
them.
very cheap
Still,
price,
yeah.
But they didn't pay for the production, you see.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they only paid for the distribution rights, which is significantly cheaper for
Maybe.
something that people might click on.
Yeah.
Because it is Lost-esque and there's Kate Bosworth.
Yeah,
and,
Kate Bosworth and all that.
Things like
With
that.
her weird accent. Okay, yeah, whatever. Let's say about this better, lah.
Yeah, it's a 0 out of 10 for me and 1 out of 10 from Hardy.
Yeah.
Next up, let's talk about a Jurassic World short film
Hey!
written and directed by Colin Trevorrow.
This was fun.
It is called The Battle at Big Rock.
Yeah.
And Colin Trevorrow will actually be directing Jurassic World 3.
Yep.
So this follows it up. It's interesting that you watched Battle at Big Rock because you didn't watch Jurassic World 2.
No, I did after that.
Oh, so you do know what happened, like
Yeah,
dinosaurs.
The dinosaurs
unleashed.
and then it was now the dinosaurs world, lah.
Correct. So this 8-minute short is takes place 1 year after the events of Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, in Big Rock National Park, where dinosaurs are now living. The story follows a family of 4 whose encounter with these wild animals become a terrifying fight for survival.
Yeah, it was fun.
What do you think about this?
It was fun.
Okay.
I mean, it's fun because it kind of sets up what you expect in the next Jurassic World.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect Jurassic World to be what Jurassic Park was. We kind of the ship has already sailed.
Jurassic Park 2 and 3 weren't
what Jurassic Park 1 was. Yeah, exactly. So but one thing that Jurassic World does very well is good dinosaur action.
Okay.
Overall, even though some of the CGI can be a bit like iffy.
It's a short film on FX.
But why I love this was because first of all they shot it at night. Whenever you do night shoots with CGI and all that, right, it makes the CGI a lot better because you can hide a lot of details. So you can make it look a lot more realistic than if you were to do a day shoot, for example.
Okay.
The little story of the camping grounds getting attacked and all that, okay, it was fun, The baby crying is such a trope that the baby will cry at the worst opportune moment, There was that horror, the Carnosaur. It's a Carnosaur that was attacking them. Or no, it's an Allosaur.
Yeah.
That was attacking them, sorry.
So you just said carnivorous dinosaur and you combined it.
No, there's
Carnosaur?
There's Carnosaurus.
Okay.
But there's also Allosaurus.
Sorry.
Yeah, so this is an Allosaurus.
Allosaurus is bigger than T-Rex.
No, smaller, but then has longer arms.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it has longer reach.
Correct. It has 3 instead of 2 fingers.
Otherwise, virtually identical.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry, it's a UFC joke.
I know. But again, for 5 minutes, this was fun. It made me look forward to, make me kind of want to watch Jurassic World 3 lah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was why, and I was just impressed at the CGI lah.
How would you rate it?
Like a 7, I guess.
Okay.
Because it was fun. It was really fun for what it was. It was 5 minutes, very short, very quick, and very well executed.
I watched it as well because it's like 8 minutes, right? All in all, I thought the short film proves that Colin Trevorrow can be just as boring in 8 minutes as he is in 2 hours. I did not dig
so
this
mean.
one. This is 5 out of 10 for me.
I loved it. I don't know.
I don't know. It's
2 dinosaurs fighting.
Yeah, but it focused on the 4 boring people.
Yeah, I know, but once in a
Then
while.
the baby cried. Fucking just eat the baby lah. What the fuck?
It's okay. And then the crossbow girl.
Yeah, which they set up again, which is such a trope with Jurassic Park now.
It is.
Like
it is.
going back to Jurassic Park 2 with the
My expectations for Jurassic World is very
the
low.
gymnast girl that fucking executed the triple flip. Like,
that was
dropkick
in
on
Jurassic
on a
Park 2.
Velociraptor. Yeah,
That was Lost World, right?
Yeah. So I guess there is a tradition there.
There
of that
is.
lah.
Yeah.
It's just black too, right?
Two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. That's it for quick hits. Next up, I'll be jumping into the pool list,
Yeah.
which is reading recommendations. So this month, I have 2 things to recommend, and both from the same writer,
Okay.
called Kieron Gillen. Do you know who Kieron Gillen is?
No,
So
I
he
don't.
is kind of an indie star, so to speak. Not as big as Brian K. Vaughan, but getting up there because he has a series of really well-reviewed award-winning titles. First thing I want to talk about is The Wicked and the Divine, which has been, in my opinion, one of the best fantasy comics of this decade. Right up there with Marjorie Liu's Monstrous and Brian K. Vaughan's Saga.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the few comics I read month to month, which is why I'm sad that the series concluded at issue 45 just this month. But what better time than now to encourage everyone to go out and read the series, because you can just pick it up all at once, no more waiting. Writer Kieron Gillen, I can never pronounce that name. Kieron Gillen, with art by James McElvey. They worked together on Young Avengers prior.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
The Blockbuster series follows teenage girl Laura as she interacts with a group called the Pantheon. These are a group of 12 people who discovered that they are reincarnated deities. This discovery grants them pop star fame and godlike power, with the stipulation that they will all die within 2 years.
Oh, wow.
As part of a 90-year cycle known as the Recurrence. Yes, gods are reincarnated as pop stars, and yes, godhood is also a terminal illness.
Okay.
Death was guaranteed from the start, and the book repeatedly delivered with a body count that rivals Game of Thrones. The book's lead, Laura, started out as a fangirl of the Pantheon before ascending to godhood, which is when her life went to just utter shit. The plot continues to twist and turn, and The Wicked and the Divine kept its focus on Laura's grief, depression, and self-destructive behavior. The premise also played with pop cultural myths like the 27 Club, the idea of live fast, die young. But as the series progressed, it began to ask hard questions like, what kind of person would buy into these myths? I hope I die before I get old, that kind of myths. Who wants to believe that about themselves? Eventually, Laura starts to ask these questions herself. Godhood, she realized, is a trap, and maybe there was a way out. This is a beautiful book, very, very gorgeously drawn and immensely addictive. I am almost jealous that you people listening to this recommendation will get to read all 45 issues at one go. Because I was picking it up week to week, month to month actually, man. And plus there were some gaps in between. Took like 3-month breaks and 4-month breaks, like Saga does and Monstrous does. But unlike other books, there's almost a TV episodic quality to The Wicked and Divine, because it doesn't just tell an engrossing story. It plays with form and style to deliver unique experimental issues
from issue to issue.
Right. Yeah. So there is one issue where the story is set to a techno beat.
Okay.
There is one that remixes panels from previous issues. There is one that was just in a fashion magazine. There's one that squeezed in 6,000 years of human history into 11 pages. The book is phenomenal. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. Very interesting, especially if you're into fantasy and pop star myths. Next one is something called Die, D-I-E.
Also by Karen.
Also by Kieron Gillen. Kieron. If you're into The Wicked and the Divine, if you're sad that The Wicked and the Divine is ending, and you want more, why not check out this new series on Image Comics? Die is a comic about tabletop RPG game gone bad.
I'm sold.
It's but not in a fun Jumanji kind of way. Die is very bleak. It's very full of pain. In it, 6 teenagers disappear for 2 years in the early 90s when they are sucked into the game. When they come back, they can't and won't say what's happened to them because it's too traumatic. Now, 25 years later, that they discover the game isn't over. It's a heady combination of fascinating world building, compellingly broken characters, tearing each other apart, sometimes emotionally, sometimes literally, and striking artwork. You are immediately drawn into the mysteries of this new realm and a hodgepodge of specifically genre, fantasy, and archetypes, and an edgelord teenager's idea of what over-the-top grimness or grimness means, that reads both as a critique of high fantasy and edgy teens. You're also drawn to the traumas of Dai's cast, not just in the 2 years they suffer off-panel, being trapped in another world, but in the 25 more they endure after the first issue flashes forward to the modern day. They all try to find a way to cope with a sense of normality in the wake of existential trauma. How they've grown and changed, shaped not just by their time in literal dark fantasy, but also just by living life, growing up, having kids, getting jobs, dealing with emotional problems. But beyond that, it also deals with friends who are drifted apart but are now forced together again by a cryptic signal that asks them to return to the nightmare that robbed them of their childhoods. It's a series about the need for and the perils of escapism, of escaping the real world. And it's also a book about why people are enchanted by role-playing. It's kind of like that animated Dungeons and Dragons show from the 80s, except like the inverse. Kids who find themselves stuck in the land of swords and sorcery get immeasurably fucked up by the experience instead of having a great time. The clash between the real and fantastical is what makes Die such an enthralling read. It's about role-playing as an art form and why we fall in love with it as a tool of escapism, but also the danger of leaning too much into escapism to avoid regular hardships. It's an 8 out of 10 so far. The book obviously has not ended, so I cannot
how many issues in?
judge it. It is 12, 13, 14, 15 issues in. So you guys should definitely check it out. I'm about into issue 11, so even I'm not caught up yet. But I will be as well.
Sounds good.
Next month, Isa will be in Bali.
Yes, I will.
For a long overdue and much deserved holiday.
Yes.
What will you be doing in Bali, Isa?
I will be doing BJJ. I'll be learning how to surf and hopefully do some writing / recording some music.
Nice. Isa also of Subshaman and Blank Verse, also a musician, so he's going to be focusing on his art instead of talking about it here. But in his place, we will be inviting actually exactly 1 year ago, you might have listened to him on this podcast, Christopher Falk, who came on our last year's October edition. So it's an annual thing. He is our annual Halloween guest. Chris will be joining us to talk about Joker. Me and Hadi will be talking about the first part of the last season of Bojack Horseman, which has been divided into 2 parts. First part will be
October 25th,
and then January will be part 2. We'll also be talking about a new animated series. Well, it's not really a series, it's a mini series. 5 episodes of 20 minutes. Very easy to get through. It's called Primal by Gennady Gnorski, the creator of Samurai Jack. We'll be talking about Terminator Dark Fate.
I can't wait. Confirm stupid.
James Cameron is back. You know,
it actually looks pretty good. I have to say, I saw the trailer.
Mackenzie Davis and Tim Miller, the director of Deadpool,
and Ghost Rider lah.
And Ghost Rider and Sarah Connor, the original Sarah Connor is back, you know.
Linda Hamilton.
So who knows, you know. And it is doing what Halloween did. It is erasing Terminator 3, 4 and 5 from canon and is going back to... So this is a direct follow-up to Terminator 2.
Thank God for time travel,
they're not...
No, I don't know.
It never happened.
It never happened.
It's gone the way of Star Trek.
So it's retcon lah.
No, it's just gone the way of Star Trek EU, it doesn't count.
Okay.
If it's not if James Cameron
or
didn't
Star Wars Legends lah.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So, hopefully this is good. If not, they have to retcon again.
Well, Dark Genesis wasn't that bad lah. No, sorry, no, wrong.
Wasn't that the worst?
No, not Dark Genesis. What's the one with Christian Bale?
Terminator 3.
No.
It
was called something else. It was not Terminator 3. Yeah. What was that called? 4 or something, can't remember lah. But yeah, that one was not bad.
Okay.
But that was like a post-apocalyptic world, and it wasn't focused on the whole
Man, they could have done more of it too, lah.
Of course.
I really wish that whole movie would have been shot like Children of Men, you know. Him journeying through the post-apocalyptic world, just fuck the time travel, just him trying to survive, you know. But whatever, lah. That's just me fancy booking.
Exactly.
We'll also be talking about Carmen Sandiego, an animated show we really liked last year. Second season comes back on Netflix on October 1st. So the day that you listen to us, go watch Carmen Sandiego. I'll be recapping and reviewing Carol and Tuesday, which Isa Fong already talked about, and I will give my 2 cents
I think I might
the show
catch
wraps up.
When you come back. Yeah.
I'll be talking about the second season of The Terror as well, called The Terror Infamy.
That one I'll be doing review.
Japanese internment camp. I'll be talking about a zombie movie called Little Monsters, which is going to be out on Hulu. It's a comedy. I'll be talking about Gemini Man, where old Will Smith fights young Will Smith.
Have you watched it yet?
No,
right?
It's not out yet.
It's not out yet. Okay.
Yeah,
I saw the early reviews already. But then let's not talk.
A lot of people were talking that Ang Lee's technological advances were great. But they didn't actually talk about the movie
for good reason. So
you
no, I saw the reviews. I read the reviews, but I haven't watched it. It's not out yet.
So Gemini Man finds Will Smith fighting Will Smith. We'll also be talking about Living with Yourself on Netflix, which is Paul Rudd fighting Paul Rudd. Where Paul Rudd goes to a spa. And wants to be a better version of himself. But he finds when he comes home, a better version of himself is there. And he has to fight him. But this is obviously a comedy because it's Paul Rudd.
It's Paul Rudd.
We'll be talking about the sequel to Maleficent called Maleficent
2.
Mistress of Evil. Yes, Maleficent 2, of course. Mistress of Evil. And the new season of Big Mouth also on Netflix. I'll be also talking about currently in my last 50 pages. I'm reading The Testaments by Margaret Atwood.
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
The sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, the real one, not the Hulu one. And also Chris will be recommending a book of his choosing.
Nice.
So catch us next month. Till then, this has been Hidzir.
I'm Hardy.
I'm Isa.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.